In the tumultuous world of that time, I got reincarnated as a slime. A legendary entity emerges from the shadows of a forgotten cavern. The formidable storm dragon, Veldora Tempest, an iconic figure whose mere presence was enough to make nations tremble. Once sealed by the unrivaled power of the famed hero Chloe using the Infinity Prison, Veldora embodied a fascinating paradox, a being of devastating power, capable of shifting the geopolitical balance of the world with only his aura, yet displaying an exuberant, almost childlike temperament that made him vulnerable to flattery. Yes, this legendary dragon, nicknamed the Secret Weapon by a mocking Rimuru, was far more than a mere force of nature. In this video, we will dive into the essence of Veldora, from his chaotic origins to his spectacular rebirth, exploring his unique skills and his pivotal role in Rimuru's world. Prepare to discover why this dragon, despite his boastful airs, remains an indispensable figure, capable of standing toe-to-toe with the greatest, yet occasionally surprised by unexpected foes. As a distinguished member of the Four True Dragons, Veldora Tempest represents the elite of the most powerful beings in this universe, classified under the catastrophe class, a rank synonymous with absolute danger. In truth, he is far more than the typical dragon of fantasy tales. In the Tensura world, the true dragons are not mere fire-breathing beasts. They are supreme sacred spirits, primordial entities whose power transcends the laws of nature. Veldora, with his imposing silhouette and overwhelming aura, is one of those titans. At dawn of his birth, he sowed chaos throughout the world, yielding to his capricious instincts. Ravaged cities, landscapes reshaped by his devastating storms. Veldora, dubbed the Evil Dragon by those who feared his fury, was a force of pure destruction, incapable of stillness. But this cycle of destruction and rebirth, possible because true dragons can resurrect after annihilation, was violently interrupted 3 centuries ago when the brave hero Chronoa decided to end his rampage. The trigger? A devastating attack on a city of the Eastern Empire, reduced to ashes by Veldora's fury. This catastrophe drew Chloe's attention. Her mission was clear: neutralize this threat. After a titanic battle where the heroine's bravery and cunning confronted the raw power of the Storm Dragon, Chronoa succeeded in imprisoning him with Infinity Prison, a terrifyingly complex ultimate skill. This mystical prison was designed to drain its captive's energy by forcing a constant emission of magicules, supposedly weakening even someone as powerful as Veldora. Yet the colossal amount of magicules Veldora possessed defied all logic. For 300 years, sealed within a cave in the heart of the Great Forest of Jura, he resisted this prison's erosion, his aura still radiating through his cell's walls. Even sealed, his presence kept nearby nations on high alert, transforming the Great Forest of Jura into untouchable territory where no monster or adventurer dared to tread for fear of awakening this calamity. But fate, or rather a certain slime, was about to upend this fragile balance. When Rimuru Tempest, a creature as unlikely as he was shrewd, crossed paths with Veldora, everything changed. In an act as audacious as it was unexpected, Rimuru used his unique skill predator, later evolving into gluttony, to devour Veldora and the Endless Prison. Within Rimuru's stomach, Veldora, far from being annihilated, found an unexpected ally. Thanks to Rimuru's unique skill Great Sage, which patiently analyzed the Infinity Prison, Veldora began to see a glimmer of hope. The sudden disappearance of his aura from the Great Forest of Jura sent shockwaves across the world. Nations that had built their strategies on fear of this dragon were destabilized, some seeing opportunity, others an imminent threat. Rimuru's evolution into the true Demon Lord marked a decisive turning point. His Great Sage evolved into the formidable ultimate skill Raphael, Lord of Wisdom, capable of analyses of unmatched precision. With this power, the analysis of the Infinity Prison accelerated, enabling not only Veldora's escape, but also granting him an invaluable gift: the ultimate skill Faust, Lores of Investigation. This skill, bestowed by Rimuru, enhanced Veldora's analytical capabilities, giving him unprecedented mastery over his own powers. Freed from his prison, Veldora didn't just regain his freedom, he gained a physical body, shaped through Rimuru's power. In this new form, a bronze-skinned, golden-haired man of almost insolent beauty, Veldora became a charismatic figure, both imposing and oddly approachable. But who is Veldora Tempest really? Beneath his boastful and impulsive dragon exterior lies a complex personality. Curious and a lover of human culture, he devours manga with an almost comical passion, and surprisingly sociable, Veldora is also profoundly loyal. His solitude, endured over centuries of isolation, has made him susceptible to flattery, something Rimuru, Raphael, and even figures like Shuna exploit with playful delight. After regaining a body, Veldora temporarily moved in with Rimuru, spending his days reading manga to the point where he was affectionately called lazy, a nod to his temporary idleness. But this period of lounging didn't last long. Rimuru, ever the strategist, found the perfect role for his dragon friend, guardian of the deepest floor of the labyrinth, the masterwork dungeon created by Demon Lord Ramirez. This labyrinth, a miniature world shaped by Ramirez's unique skills Small World, is a masterpiece of ingenuity. Its twisting corridors, ingenious traps, and countless floors make it an impregnable fortress. On the 100th deepest floor sits Veldora, not just as a final boss, but as a strategic presence. This level, beyond being the stage for epic battles, houses the military headquarters of Rimuru's nation, a nerve center for critical strategy planning. Positioning Veldora there is no accident. His deterrent power ensures the labyrinth's security, while leveraging his charisma and strategic insight, honed through centuries of observing the world. Veldora's evolution goes beyond his appearance or abilities. Under Rimuru's influence, his outlook on existence has shifted. He once regarded death as a mere inconvenience, convinced he would be reborn elsewhere like any true dragon. But living with Rimuru and observing his actions from within the stomach, alongside the fire spirit Ifrit, Veldora began to think differently. His vision, once dominated by instinctual destruction, gained new depth, marked by unbreakable loyalty to his slime friend. This subtle yet profound transformation makes Veldora far more than a destructive dragon. He is an ally, a strategist, and a presence that continues to reshape the world's balance. The very essence of the true dragons, those primordial beings that transcend the laws of nature, rests on a fascinating trait: their ability to be reborn endlessly, carrying the same immortal soul through each cycle of destruction and resurrection. Veldora Tempest, the storm dragon, perfectly embodied this truth. Once he regarded death as a mere formality, a temporary inconvenience before re-emerging into the world. This almost nonchalant view shaped how he understood other creatures, fleeting existences, unable to match the enduring legacy of the true dragons. Yet, the influence of Rimuru Tempest, combined with pivotal events like the tragic death of Shion and deep conversations with the fire spirit Ifrit within Rimuru's stomach, shook this perspective. Veldora, once driven purely by the instinct to destroy, began to contemplate the value of life and the consequences of his actions. This inner transformation, subtle yet profound, led him to reassess his place in the world. A striking example of this evolution emerged from his realization about one of his past devastations: the utter destruction of the magnificent capital built by the Demon Lord Luminous Valentine. At that time, Veldora, struggling to control his energy, razed the city to ashes without hesitation, leaving a trail of desolation. But observing Rimuru, who was building the nation of Tempest with contagious passion, sparked regret in Veldora. This slime, with his boundless energy and dream of a harmonious world, made him recognize the magnitude of his past mistakes. No longer merely a destructive dragon, Veldora transformed into a protector, ready to defend Tempest against any threat. Thus he was entrusted with a critical role, the ultimate bulwark, a sentry guarding the nation's final line of defense, a strategic post where his raw power and natural charisma could shine. But just how powerful is Veldora? Even before meeting Rimuru, he was a force of nature capable of standing against legendary foes. Let's revisit one of his most emblematic battles, his clash with Chronoa. This battle, etched into history, pitted Veldora against an exceptional adversary whose true identity is shrouded in complexity. In truth, Chronoa was a unique fusion, the body of Chloe Aubert harboring the soul of Hinata Sakaguchi, a configuration born from the heroine's time-traveling ordeals. Through her unique skill, Time Traveler, Chronoa tirelessly explored multiple timelines in an attempt to prevent Rimuru's death and the world's destruction. In one of these timelines, Veldora, true to his chaotic nature, unleashed devastation, forcing Chronoa to intervene. The clash was titanic. On one side, a dragon unhinged whose mere presence shook the world's foundation. On the other, a time-controlling heroine whose cunning and resolve defied comprehension. Despite Veldora's brute strength, Chronoa emerged victorious, sealing him within Infinity Prison. The sheer fact that Veldora could contend with such a foe testifies to his elite status in this universe, even back then, as a colossus driven by instinct. Or, conversely, does Chronoa's ability to rival such a being illustrate her own power on a multiversal scale? Share your thoughts in the comments. The arrival of Rimuru Tempest marked a decisive turning point in Veldora Tempest's evolution. Their meeting was not merely physical liberation, but a complete rebirth. Before this encounter, Veldora already possessed a unique skill, Investigator, a reflection of his insatiable thirst for discovery. This ability, centered on analysis and understanding, formed the foundation of his potential. But when Rimuru ascended to the rank of true Demon Lord, an extraordinary phenomenon occurred. Thanks to the deep bond between them, Veldora received an invaluable gift. His unique skill, Investigator, evolved into the ultimate skill Faust, Lord of Investigation, a terrifyingly versatile power. Faust combined 5 major abilities: thought acceleration, to process information at lightning speed; analysis and evaluation, to decipher the world's mechanisms; omniscience, to grasp the essence of phenomena; probability manipulation, enabling him to twist events in his favor against equal or lower-ranked foes; and psychological penetration, the ability to pierce enemies' intentions and skills in an instant. These tools made Veldora not just destructive, but strategically formidable. A memorable example of this power occurred at the True Demon Lord Banquet, where Veldora, now in human form, faced off against Demon Lord Milim Nava. In that confrontation, he proudly unleashed a technique he dubbed the Veldora's Deadly Combat Method, inspired by the manga he loved so much. Using psychological penetration, he anticipated Milim's movements, parried her attacks with surgical precision, and launched counter-strikes that echoed the energy waves of classic shonen heroes. The battle, both spectacular and tinged with humor, highlighted Veldora's new facet, a warrior blending brute strength and tactical finesse. Yet Veldora's evolution continued. When he and Rimuru forged their bond through the Soul Corridor, their connection became unbreakable. This bond guaranteed that even if Veldora were destroyed, he could be resummoned as long as Rimuru endured. Later, during the war against the Eastern Empire, Faust was further elevated by Ciel, the evolved form of Raphael, to become Nyarlathotep, Lord of Chaos. This new ultimate skill incorporated Faust's abilities and added 3 major enhancements: parallel existence, enabling Veldora to split his consciousness and create autonomous copies of himself; temporal spatial manipulation, to defy the laws of space and time; and multidimensional barrier, an almost impenetrable defense. With parallel existence, Veldora could theoretically deploy multiple versions of himself, each equally formidable, turning any confrontation into a nightmare for his opponents. Shared with his sister Velgrind, this ability made him a strategic threat unrivaled. For Tempest's enemies, facing Veldora meant entering an endless cycle. Even if they defeated him, Rimuru could revive him, making any victory illusory. The apex of Veldora's power manifested in a legendary clash against Demon Lord Dagruel, a titan among true demon lords. This mythic duel saw Dagruel, empowered by merging with his brothers to become Ashura, reach unimaginable levels of strength. Against him, Veldora unleashed all his fury. Their initial impact was cataclysmic. The shockwave obliterated the magical shields protecting luminous Valentine's holy capital, vaporizing intruder defenses and mystic ramparts in an instant. The battlefield, ravaged by their confrontation, became a theater of chaos so intense that even a figure as potent as luminous Valentine dared not intervene. Interference would be a death sentence. The violence of that duel, almost mythological in scale, reached heights that left even Luminous in stunned silence. She, a privileged observer, called the clash a rare phenomenon, a spectacle so exceptional it might occur only once every millennium. The Holy Capital, stage of the confrontation, was reduced to ruins, with its magical fortifications pulverized in a flash by the ferocity of their exchanges. Amid this chaos, Veldora unleashed one of his most devastating attacks, Lightning Storm, a plasma energy explosion capable of reshaping the battlefield. But Dagruel, invigorated by his fusion with his brothers as Ashura, repelled the attack with disconcerting ease, scattering plasma fragments that gouged wide craters into the heart of the city. This setback, far from weakening Veldora, fueled his resolve. The battle then devolved into brutal hand-to-hand combat, each blow resonating like a cataclysm, shaking the very foundations of reality. It was during this relentless fight that Veldora revealed his trump card, the ultimate fertile paradox, a mystically profound technique transcending mere destruction. Born from his mastery of Nyarlathotep, Lord of Chaos, this ultimate skill did more than annihilate, it transformed the battlefield. By releasing a wave of sacred energy, it instilled a form of blessing into the ravaged land, turning debris and residual energies into catalysts for natural regeneration. But its true genius lay in its effect on Dagruel. Veldora strategically made his opponent the core of the enchantment. Forced to channel his immense power to restore balance to the devastated ground, Dagruel became bound to the land. This constraint, unbreakable due to the very nature of the skill, plunged Dagruel into a deep centuries, or even millennia, long slumber, absorbed by the earth. It was more than a victory. It was a masterful strategic demonstration. Veldora ended a historic duel with elegance and devastation. For the first time, where previous confrontations had been tie, Veldora triumphed, marking a decisive turning point in their rivalry. How then can we situate Veldora Tempest on the cosmic chessboard of power in this universe? Another name often arises in this discussion: Diablo, the primordial demon in service to Rimuru Tempest. To compare these two titans, we must explore a concept introduced in Volume 16 of the light novel, Existence Value, an attempt to quantify a being's raw power through their amount of magicules, comparable to a mana gauge. Though the author acknowledges the system's imperfections, it offers a fascinating glimpse into the power hierarchy. At that time, Diablo boasted a value of 6,666,666 EP, an undeniably symbolic and suspicious score befitting his demonic nature, clearly designed for dramatic flair rather than accuracy. Later, Volume 21 confirmed that Diablo, described as a monster capable of manipulating his data, could rival opponents far beyond his apparent score. But Veldora Tempest occupies a different league entirely. With a staggering 88,126,579 existence points, he surpasses not only Diablo, but also most other major figures in the universe. For perspective, even Velzard clocks in at around 80 million, and Velgrind at approximately 74 million. This exceptional level explains why Veldora could shoulder the massive magical expenditure required when Rimuru made significant appointments, acts that drained enormous quantities of magicules. Still, in the world of Tensura, sheer numbers don't tell the whole story. As Chronoa demonstrated, sealing Veldora despite her own inferiority in magicules, skill mastery, strategy, and judicious use of energy often prove decisive. Likewise, fighters like Hakuro the White Wolf have shown that high technical proficiency via mastered arts can overturn adversaries far stronger in EP. Diablo excels in using magical arts, techniques combining knowledge, precision, and mystic power, potentially enough to challenge Veldora in certain scenarios. However, a crucial detail tips the scales. Even Diablo and his peers were overwhelmed by the devastating magic of Melim, indicating a seemingly insurmountable barrier between ordinary beings and true dragons. As a member of that elite race, Veldora enjoys a crushing racial advantage. Even Melim, a partial inheritor of that lineage, reaches around 100 million EP, highlighting the colossal gap between true dragons and the rest. Their superiority isn't limited to just magicules. Their physical strength, resilience, and ability to be reborn with intact personalities and memories make them near invincible beings. In essence, Veldora Tempest embodies the very essence of racial supremacy. His brute force, combined with a strategic intelligence honed by his ultimate skills, places him at the apex of the hierarchy. Whether facing Dagruel, whom he defeated through mystic cunning, or hypothetically opposing Diablo, Veldora remains a force of nature, a dragon whose mere existence redefines the rules of the game. Within the pantheon of overpowered entities in Tensura, comparing Veldora and Diablo ignites fierce debate. Diablo, as one of the primordial demons, bears the weight of a millennia-spanning existence, longevity that nearly rivals that of true dragons. One notable exception, Veldora's eldest brother, Veldanava, the Star King dragon whose age surpasses even that of Diablo. For demons, longevity is a key asset. Time lived translates directly into power. Diablo, having endured several millennia, has forged colossal strength, bolstered by a legion of fearsome demonic subordinates. Like Veldora, he enjoys a form of near immortality. If defeated by an adversary to whom he has sworn loyalty, he can be reborn, intact, and ready to fight again. This resilience, together with his Machiavellian intelligence and mastery of magical arts, makes Diablo an extraordinarily dangerous opponent. However, despite these strengths, the balance tilts toward Veldora when examining the fundamental differences between their species. True dragons, with their astronomical magicules, dominate via unmatched physical presence and endurance. The gap in existence points, approximately 88 million for Veldora versus an estimated 30 million for Diablo, reflects a raw power disparity that's hard to bridge. If Diablo faced Dagruel, the titanic adversary Veldora overcame, he would be unlikely to replicate Veldora's resounding victory. Veldora's physical prowess, bolstered by his ultimate skill Nyarlathotep, Lord of Chaos, especially his probability manipulation ability, makes a swift win for Diablo nearly unattainable. Even if Diablo were to exploit magical arts to circumvent the magicule gap, Veldora's ability to bend events in his favor stands as a formidable barrier. That said, one intriguing scenario deserves mention: the potential involvement of Rimuru Tempest's ultimate skill, Nihility Collapse. Should Diablo wield that power, his level could theoretically match or even exceed Veldora's. Yet opening that Pandora's box leads to paradoxes. If Veldora himself used the Nihility Collapse, the outcomes would be equally unpredictable. To remain fair, this comparison focuses solely on their intrinsic capabilities. Veldora's evolution, from an impulsive, chaos-bringing dragon to a strategist wielding refined skill, solidifies his advantage. His colossal magicules, combined with the tactical precision granted by Nyarlathotep, make him an almost insurmountable force, even for a foe as formidable as Diablo. But even a being as mighty as Veldora has weaknesses, or rather fears. As the youngest of the four true dragons, he lives in the shadow of even more intimidating figures. At the top stands his elder brother Veldanava, the Star King dragon, creator of this universe, an entity so monstrous that it redefines power. Veldanava, wielding multiple ultimate skills like Michael, Lord of Justice, and Uriel, Lord of Covenant, could crush adversaries like Demon Lord Crimson effortlessly. Even in a world where figures like Rimuru or Masayuki Rudra push the limits, Veldanava remains an unattainable pinnacle. For Veldora, this overwhelming shadow evokes a mix of respect and fear, a constant reminder of his place among the true dragons. Next is his elder sister Velzard, the Frost Dragon, a charismatic yet ruthless figure. Closely linked to Crimson, she embodies a complex personality, alternating between almost maternal affection, using affectionate nicknames for her younger siblings, and steely severity. For Veldora, she represents strict authority. Exploiting the immortality of true dragons, she didn't hesitate to repeatedly annihilate Veldora, leaving him broken before his rebirth. These brutal punishments etched a visceral fear in Veldora's psyche, instilling an instinctive wariness toward his elder sister. The third sibling, Velgrind, the Scorched Dragon, is no less intimidating. Faithful companion to Emperor Masayuki of the Eastern Empire, she shares Velzard's strict approach toward Veldora, though their philosophies differ. Velzard enforces cold, methodical discipline, while Velgrind adopts a more passionate, almost authoritarian style of educating her turbulent little brother. These philosophical clashes spark explosive tensions between the sisters, each believing her method best channels Veldora's chaotic energy. For the youngest, witnessing two such mighty beings clash because of him is a profound source of anxiety. As Milim's uncle, Milim being the daughter of Veldanava and the human Lucia, Veldora Tempest also carries the weight of that legendary lineage, where each member seems to outshine the last. However, Veldora's fears extend beyond his siblings. One even more enigmatic presence unnerves him, Ciel, the Manus born from the evolution of the ultimate skill Raphael. A mana is a unique being, a skill with its own consciousness, capable of managing and optimizing its wielder's powers. Would you like a dedicated video about the different manas that appear in the series? Let me know in the comments and I'll make one. When Rimuru Tempest renamed Raphael as Ciel, she transcended her role to become a near-divine intelligence, precisely cold and relentlessly logical. Even when she was still Great Sage, Veldora, confined within Rimuru's stomach, interacted with her and was both impressed and intimidated by her incisive judgments. As Ciel, this entity became even more terrifying, capable of analysis and manipulation of world dynamics with astonishing efficiency. Behind his friendly demeanor, Veldora conceals a respectful fear of this omniscient intelligence, whose unforgiving logic surpasses even his own power. Ciel's influence on Veldora is a spectacle in itself. Even before his physical reincarnation, their exchanges within Rimuru's stomach revealed a fascinating dynamic. Raphael, with cold and unyielding authority, issued instructions that left little room for dispute. Veldora, despite being a true dragon, obeyed her mandates with surprising docility, a behavior that speaks volumes about the overwhelming aura of this mystical intelligence. When he discovered that Ciel was a distinct being from Rimuru, Veldora felt both relief and validation, as though he had sensed, even during Great Sage's era, that this voice in the shadows was more than just a tool serving his slime friend. This revelation, tinged with humor, reinforced the idea that Veldora, though powerful, harbored a respectful fear of Ciel, an entity whose sheer logic alone could startle a violent dragon. If Ciel unsettles Veldora with her supernatural intellect, another figure casts him into an equally uneasy position, though for very different reasons. Luminous Valentine, the Demon Lord. Their relationship, marked by a tumultuous past, melds tension, misunderstandings, and a strange attempt at redemption. Centuries ago, Veldora, in a classic spree of destruction, reduced Luminous's splendid capital to ashes, an act that carved a lasting resentment in the Demon Lord's heart. Since then, she has never missed an opportunity to make him pay, and Veldora, despite his power, often completely loses his composure in the face of her wrath. This weakness becomes almost comical when he clumsily attempts to make amends, whether memorizing her name with exaggerated precision, unfortunately revealing her Demon Lord identity during a conversation, or causing a festival brawl over a trivial matter at a stall. Veldora seems to excel at inadvertently stoking Luminous's ire. With each outburst, he retreats into a defensive posture, unable to retaliate against the vampire's fury. A particularly memorable episode illustrates this dynamic. During a confrontation where Luminous, furious, discovered that her status as a Demon Lord had been exposed, she unleashed her Embrace Drain on Veldora, a technique as cruel as it is effective, inflicting unbearable pain directly to his soul. Overwhelmed by the suffering, Veldora could do nothing but endure, his usual arrogance swept away by the attack's intensity. Yet behind her anger, Luminous seems to perceive Veldora's growth. Influenced by Rimuru, he has learned to listen, reflect, and care for others, a transformation that softens, even slightly, the Demon Lord's opinion of him. Her indulgence is reinforced by admiration for Rimuru, who has protected dear ones to her heart, like Chloe and Hinata. By extension, Veldora, as a loyal ally of Rimuru, gains some goodwill, even if his nickname Lizard remains an affectionate insult in Luminous's voice. A key moment in their dynamic occurred during the legendary battle against Dagruel. As Luminous found herself cornered by the overwhelming might of the colossal Demon Lord, the image of Veldora flashed through her mind. In a mix of disbelief and amusement, she tried to dismiss the thought, refusing to admit that a lizard could be her salvation. Yet, as Dagruel prepared to deliver a fatal blow while time stood frozen in a stopped world, Veldora appeared with dramatic precision and narrowly blocked the attack. This heroic rescue, though spectacular, was not fully appreciated by Luminous, because Veldora, true to his dramatic nature, demanded that Dagruel lift the stopped world so his brave act would be properly acknowledged. Unfortunately for him, Luminous Valentine, still conscious even within that frozen temporal space, heard this vain request. Red with anger, she swore to settle the score with that damned lizard once the battle was over. Yet behind her threats, a sincere sense of gratitude could be felt. Veldora Tempest, despite his clumsiness, had risked his life to protect her, a gesture that did not go unnoticed. Veldora's evolution, from a destructive dragon to a reliable ally, is undeniable. However, his chronic inability to win Luminous's favor seems to be an immutable trait of his personality. His awkward attempts to gain her goodwill, often punctuated by monumental blunders, add a humorous touch to his journey, making him all the more endearing. This curious uncle, as one might call him, continues to fascinate with his blend of raw power, comedic vulnerability, and unwavering loyalty to Rimuru Tempest and Tempest. For Tensura fans, Veldora embodies a delightful paradox, a titan capable of toppling mountains, yet one who trembles before an enraged Demon Lord or the icy intellect of Ciel. So, what do you think? Has this journey into Veldora's world, from his legendary feats to his hilarious misadventures, captivated you? If you want to dive even deeper into the mysteries of this universe, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming analyses. Don't forget to check out the video on Chronoa and Chloe Aubert. I also have a full video on Luminous waiting for you. And here are a few more recommendations.